order the meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission for City of Encinitas at 5:32 on the 18th of May. We've got a roll call.
I will take roll. Chair Warren.
Here.
Vice Chair Lappin.
Here.
Commissioner Elliott.
Here.
Commissioner Hanson.
Here.
Commissioner O'Halloran.
Here.
Commissioner Ritter.
Here.
Commissioner Winters.
Here.
All are present.
Okay. Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Elliott, will you lead the pledge, please?
Sure. Please join me in a pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Good job.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Elliott. We have special presentations and proclamations. We do have Brooke Decker, is that right, Melody? Giving a presentation. And actually before that, Manager Carlin, did you want to do your introduction first?
Oh, that'd be great. So I just wanted to introduce Parker Anderson to you all. He is our new recreation supervisor. And so Parker's main focus is going to be working with our youth sports organizations in field allocations and making sure that everything's going smoothly out on our ball fields. He'll also be working with our ambassador program, some special events, and then also working with beach programs and then outdoor athletic programs. So I wanted to welcome Parker and give him just a little opportunity to maybe tell you a little bit about himself.
Great.
Hey everybody, I'm really excited to be starting with the City of Encinitas. There's a lot for me to learn, so it's been really fun the last week so far. I'm actually from Wisconsin, like Travis, so if you've seen any Badger gear around, that's that you'll see that up in my office. So I grew up in the Midwest, and then I came out here for a job at San Diego State University, and then now after that job, I am taking this role. So I'm really excited to be serving the City of Encinitas, and if you ever need anything, please let me know.
Great. Is this a new position that's created, or are you filling in? Are you taking over?
So this position was Christian Hernandez, who left us to go to the city of Tustin. And so Parker came in to fill this role.
Very cool. Thanks for joining us. Very nice.
Thank you, Parker.
Okay. And we'll see you. Yeah, we'll see you on the fields. Okay, now we do have another presentation. Brooke, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
See if I can get my video to work. It's not been working.
Thanks so much for
oh, there we go. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Do that one. Okay, can you guys see it okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, like you said, my name is Brooke Decker. I work for the Center for Natural Lands Management as the Preserve Manager for the Manchester Preserve. So the Manchester Preserve is situated in the city of Encinitas. It's just east of the 5 in between the 3 major roads, the city or Encinitas Boulevard, Manchester Boulevard, and El Camino Real. So just a little background for the preserve. It's about 123 acres. It's mostly composed of Diegan coastal sage scrub and southern maritime chaparral. It was originally run by Tech-Built and known as Manchester Mitigation Bank in 1997, where they used it to sell mitigation credits to developers in Encinitas and northern San Diego. On December 31st of 1998, the Center for Natural Lands Management took over and used the endowment that Tech-Built had built to do all of our habitat maintenance, and that's how we fund running the preserve. So the major reason that this preserve is so special, it has a number of covered species by the Encinitas Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan, including Del Mar manzanita, San Diego thornmint, and coastal California gnatcatcher. And actually, shortly after the Center for Natural Lands Management took over, we did find another rare shrub species that's only located on the Manchester Preserve in all of California, known as Orchis hazzardia. So now I'm just going to go through some of my typical day-to-day things, a little bit of the struggles and kind of what we deal with. We do hundreds of hours of patrols every year. I have 2 rangers. It's mostly me and another ranger named Todd Nortness when we do most of the patrols throughout the county or throughout this preserve. So these are pictures that were actually taken after the large rain events last year in 2020. You can see on the left-hand side, the ditch that occurred due to all the running water throughout the preserve, and then the illegal trail that was created just upwards of that. On the right-hand side, these were the stairs. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the preserve, but these are the stairs that were leading up from the valley to the eastern mesa that were just completely blown out. All of the water bars were taken out. So pretty intensive damage. And in mentioning the intensive damage due to the corrosion of the soil, this is a reason that we actually do not allow bikes on the preserve. That and it is dangerous. And we've never allowed that in the 22 years that we've managed the preserve. So yeah, the corrosiveness of the trails is one reason. But with great help from the city of Encinitas, and I just want to shout out Katrina because she's always very helpful with me. We do get trail maintenance done. So the picture on the left is actually that same stairway that was blown out before. So we got those fixed just a couple of weeks after I sent that to Katrina. And we do put up sandbags and water bars in other areas where we think that erosion issues are going to happen in the future as well. So those are currently holding up. We'll probably have to go back out again, but again, big help from the city of Encinitas. We really appreciate it. Okay, another thing we have to deal with is illegal trail issues. You can't see in this picture, but both of these pictures, there's actually a railing before the signs that tell you not to prevent this area. Yet I see people continuously going through this area. The best I can do is just talk to them and ask them not to walk through what says sensitive habitat. The picture on the right actually goes through one of our San Diego thornmint populations. So it's an uphill battle every day trying to get people in the city to listen and respect the rules of the preserve. But we do have signage out there and we do have gates, you know, trying to delineate the boundaries of where we want people to stay. Another thing we do a lot of fence and gate maintenance. So, sorry, it's a little backwards, but on the right-hand side, our fence had fallen down. It's probably down for maybe a week or week and a half. And likely due to corrosion, I doubt someone knocked it down on purpose. It was a pretty old gate. So me and 2 of my staff went out actually this past Friday and just installed a new gate. And that's the gate that we use to actually do the fuel zone treatment, mowing the fuel zone on the Traber entrance off of Manchester Avenue. Another issue we see with patrols is off-leash dogs. Off-leash dogs are absolutely not allowed on the preserve, and it's not, you know, not just us trying to be sticklers for the rule, but it's actually safety for the dogs. You can see people trying to rip off stickers. These were 2 dogs in a part of the preserve that they're not even supposed to be in. And then on the very right-hand side, you can see a red diamondback rattlesnake curled up, and a few yards in the distance, a dog that was about to approach him. Luckily, the person that took this picture was able to yell to the dog owner and get them under control in time and get them on a leash before anything. But it isn't just because dogs have a tendency to, you know, get in the habitat and root around, which is something we don't want, but it's also for the protection of the dogs as well. Speaking of snakes, these are just snakes that I've seen in about the past month. These aren't the only species out there, but we do see things like gopher snake. That guy was pretty big, maybe like 4 feet. A baby Southern Pacific rattlesnake in the middle, and then a very large red diamondback that lives at the top of Kai Ryan. So if you're ever up there, be very careful. Another thing, actually, Katrina and I both noticed this past week was that there's some botanical vandalization going on of our Yucca strategia, or Mojave yucca. So on the left, you can see, I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous flowers, so I can totally understand why someone would want to harvest them. But on the right, it kind of got cut off, and I apologize for that, but the whole upper flower stalk was completely taken off, and this wasn't the only plant that this was happening to. It's happening to yuccas, a couple of yuccas that I've seen at the top of Kairayan and throughout the valley. So I am going to be installing some signs there. I have them ordered, so I'm just waiting for them to come in, hopefully raise a little bit of awareness. But you know, if you guys are ever out there, see something, say something, don't let people illegally harvest these, because Yucca strategia is one that when it shoots up their flowering stalk and flowers, the plant completely dies. So you could just be depleting the seed source, because if you take the flowers away, you are taking the seeds away as well. On better news, in 2019, I actually discovered a listed CNPS species known as seaside Sesanthe, or Sesanthe marittima. It's a pretty elusive species. The phenology isn't well known, at least from my standpoint and the standpoint of one of my colleagues. There's another preserve that CNLM manages on the border of Encinitas and Carlsbad that has the same species, but we hadn't seen it in our years and years of monitoring until 2019. And it appeared both on that preserve as well as Manchester, and this time being seen at Manchester for the first time. So it doesn't come out every year, which is probably why it wasn't discovered right off the bat and why it wasn't part of our species list, but it is a sensitive species and we're very excited to put it into our species list. Probably the biggest project and the biggest biomonitoring activity that we do each year is monitoring our San Diego thorn mint. We've been doing this since we took over management of Manchester, and we have 22 years of data. We'll get numbers from about even lower than 1,000. I think one year we only had 80 in one location, but up to 5,000, which is a pretty decent population size. This year, despite the low amount of rains, we actually had a pretty decent population size of over 2,300. So I'm actually really excited about that. And that only includes our 4 extant populations. So populations that have been there since the inception of taking over the preserve, 3 of which occur on the Northwest Mesa and 1 in the valley, which was that picture that I showed you where that person was walking through the illegal trail. Since about 2017, we have been enhancing our thorn mint area by collecting seeds in the summer. We have all of our proper permits in place to do this, and then we have done soil samples throughout different clay lens areas and found the best soil type to actually spread San Diego thorn mint seed. And we've actually been able to increase the population and add an additional 5 outseeding locations. And our reason for doing this is we don't want these populations to just blink out of existence due to human activity or things like fire or erosion, etc. Okay, the last 2 things I just want to talk about. You know, this is one of my most pristine preserves that I manage. I really love Manchester. I don't have a lot of problems in terms of weeds, maybe a little bit more with people, but we do some weed removal, a little bit of mustard here and there, castor bean, tobacco tree, tumbleweed, pampas. But I did want to just bring this opportunity to talk about Ward's weed. Ward's weed is not currently on the preserve, and fingers crossed it never gets on the preserve. I forget where it's endemic to, but it did take over like all of Australia, basically, is pretty much covered in this invasive weed. It's only present in 3 locations in the United States, all of which are in San Diego County. That is Carlsbad around the Bressie Ranch area. Otay, there's a place in Otay Ranch, and I believe somewhere in San Elijo. So it's just one species. I have it on some of the kiosks out there. I have been in contact with some residents that thought they might have seen it and wanted me to come out and take a look. And I just want to say I'm always available to do that. We definitely want to catch this one if it's there before it's flowering. because it produces a lot of seed and it can be in the seed bank for about 17 years. Finally, I'll just leave you with some of the other things we do. Biomonitoring, which is a lot of what I'm doing right now in the season. So all over the whole year, we do sensitive species observation, looking, for red-tailed hawks, Cooper's hawks, Rufous crowned sparrow, just, keep adding on and identifying areas where these sensitive species are on our species list. Next year, we have an entire county-wide California gnatcatcher survey that we're going to do on all preserves throughout all of San Diego County. And I have really high hopes for Manchester. It hasn't been done in a couple of years, but I see them out there all the time. And I know that there's family groups out there, and they're pretty prevalent throughout the preserve. So I'm excited about that survey. I did some vegetation surveys actually just in the past month, looking at Diegan coastal sage scrub and southern maritime chaparral. In a year with better rain, we'll do some more clay lens assessments. Clay lens usually has more of the rare vegetation types that we're looking for, usually rare forbs. So hopefully we'll find some more neat stuff then. Barrel cactus surveys within the next few years, as well as sensitive shrub species, Adelphia, nettle, scrub oak, summer holly, Delmar manzanita, and then what's pictured here is wortstem ceanothus, which I actually did those assessments 2 years ago. And then every year, like I said, we do our thorn mint surveys, as well as at least going out and assessing the health of our orchids and sardia. So that's all that I have for you guys today. Here's my information. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and you can ask me questions right now. I don't know if that's allowed, but yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brooke. I just had a couple questions. I really appreciate you sort of giving that overview, and a lot of our Encinitas residents, I don't know if they've even really explored Manchester Preserve, but those illegal trails, do you think it's people creating their own like shortcuts, or what's the main reason for those?
So I think some of them actually happen just because of the erosion issues that happened last year. Is when I saw a lot of new development trying to cut around areas that were very heavily eroded, and then they've since just persisted. In those kind of areas, I try and put debris, like old brush material, and cover them up so they're not so visible. Yeah, and then in other cases, I think it's just people wanting to do their own thing and march to the beat of their own drum, I guess. I'm not really sure. Okay. I've had some aggressive responses when I've told people not to go in those areas. Other people have complied and said that they're sorry. So we do the best we can with our signs and our fencing. But
okay, and are you involved with the La Costa Preserve? Do you go out there? Because I think the bikes are allowed there, but they're not allowed on Manchester Preserve, right?
Yes, so actually my colleague Sarah Godfrey manages the La Costa Preserve. So like Dank Mountain and that whole like Box Canyon area over there. Okay. So I'm very familiar with that area, and I do tell them to go over there, but and I've only, bikes are not as prevalent as they were at the beginning of COVID. I think that's when everyone got a little stir crazy, and right now it's been calming down a little bit.
Because we were talking about e-bikes, and I think there's no e-bike signs out there in La Costa, but.
Yeah, because they're actually considered a motorized vehicle, and we don't allow motorized vehicles on our preserves.
Okay, well thanks. Do we have any other questions for Brooke? No? Okay. Oh,
I have one question.
Commissioner O'Halloran.
Brooke, there are official trails in the preserve, is that correct?
Oh yes, yeah. There are, what I was showing you, some of the erosion trails and then them being fixed afterwards. There's like a few miles of trails in there, and it's beautiful. I suggest anyone to go out there. Okay,
and is there a trail map that's also on the Encinitas Parks and Rec site?
There should be. I know that we have one on our website, I'm pretty sure, which is just cnlm.org. But we also have trail maps, and I think they were just filled probably on Friday when we were out there at the entrances by Teagan and the entrance of Manchester and Traybert.
Okay. Yeah, it might be great if we have a reference from our site to your site, or at least notification to the Encinitas residents that's also available to them.
Yeah, that would be great. And I can check.
They are on the,
as well.
on the Parks and Rec trail maps.
They are.
They are. Mhm.
Yeah, hi, Annette Saul here, Park Operations. Yes, we do have the Manchester Preserve maps on our city website, and we also printed maps. And I believe we referenced the preserve and CNLM also.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Vice Chair Lappin.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting. I had no idea we had so many unique species of plant in that preserve. So that was really cool to learn about. I'm just curious if you can tell us a little bit more about how CNLM and the city, like, how do they work together?
So we own and manage the preserve itself. We do all the biomonitoring, and the city of Encinitas, I believe, has a conservation easement on our trails, and they do trail work for us, or we can do trail work, I guess, for them, but on the preserve. So they have an easement on our trails to work, but we do all of like the habitat maintenance and biological monitoring.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you have any other questions? No? Okay, well, Brooke, thanks a lot. I know we've talked about doing this for a while, and really glad to see you. And that was really, really helpful, really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Okay. All right. Bye. Next, we have 5 oral communications. Do we have any oral communications?
Yes, we do. We have one oral communication. His name is Mark Siegel.
Okay. Is he going to be let into the?
I do.
I believe he was registered to speak to an agenda item regarding the pickleball and tennis etiquette.
Okay. Will he speak during that time, or should he speak
Yes, he will speak at that time.
at that time? Okay. Okay. Changes to the agenda. Do we have any changes? Approval of the minutes. Has everyone read the minutes from April 20th? Okay. I'm going to entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Do you take roll on this, Melody, for the
I will. Chair Warren,
yes?
Vice Chair Lappin,
Yes.
Commissioner Elliott,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Halloran,
Yes.
Commissioner Ritter,
Yes.
Commissioner Winters.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Great. Next up, we have action items 8A, Parks and Recreation Commission work plan. We have the, to discuss some outcomes. And other than that, I think I'd like to kind of approve the work plan and then go through if anyone has any reports. And I can kind of with some of these ad hoc subcommittee projected outcomes. I don't know if you commissioners have read these over, but they should be pretty much what's been discussed already.
Chair Warren, just for point of order. So this is the item that we would have a public comment on, and I believe that they're commenting on the tennis and pickleball. Do you want them to do the public comment when we get to that item, or would you like them to do their public comment now?
Well, you know, as a courtesy, I think we can maybe we can hear the public comment since, and then he doesn't have to stick around. He or she, I think it's a he. Yeah, so that's fine. We can do that. that will be on the, is that the tennis and pickleball?
That is correct. And he is on. His name is Mark Siegel. Mark Siegel, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. I play pickleball regularly up at Cottonwood. I saw the notices that you asked for input into the situation up at Cottonwood. And quite honestly, I don't see what the big problem is. I play there most days of the week. Most of the time, at least one court is completely unused. And if that's happening, pickleballers will move across to both courts. But when a tennis player shows up, everybody consolidates back on the one side. I think maybe some of the frustration is coming from that you have people who are giving tennis lessons up at Cottonwood, and I can really appreciate their frustration when they come up and the courts are not free. But quite honestly, you get with pickleball courts, 16 people on one court as opposed to either 2 or 4. So given we have a pandemic, I would say just leave things the way they are and just post to make it clear to people that when a new person shows up, you have to give up the court within 1 hour of your play time. And then I think most of the problem will go away. And would like to really thank you for providing the nets for both pickleball and tennis. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
I have a question for Mark. Is it something we can do?
Yeah, I think you can.
Mark, Dan O'Halloran here. Thanks for joining our meeting and speaking. My question was, do you believe it would be an undue burden to ask the pickleball players community to always fill one court at Cottonwood prior to ever setting up a net on the second court?
If that makes people feel more comfortable, I don't see a problem with that. And I think the pickleballers would comply. It's just, I would say 90% of the time when I'm playing up there, there is either one tennis court completely empty or it's been completely taken over by pickleballers. It's very seldom that I've seen the tennis players, and as a courtesy, the pickleballers almost always move over. But maybe the first stage you should do is put a sign up, say you have 1 hour of play, and then you should clear off. The second thing is say that the rules of courtesy are that the pickleballers should consolidate to one court and allow the other court to remain open for tennis players and other pickleball players.
Yep.
And try that first.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks again. Back to the outcomes. Annette, a few of these are pretty close. Most of them have minor changes. If I read these to you, are you able to kind of track any changes I give you? Because we're going to try to approve this when we're done.
Yeah, I can make changes as we go. And then when you make the motion, you would just say approve with changes.
Okay, great. And then of course, any other commissioners, if you have any changes, and I will try to go fast. Just the annual tours, Vice Chair Lappin, you thought possibly we should not include a visit to Olympus Park because many of us have already been there. There might be a problem with scheduling. Is that?
Sorry, I was just saying that I didn't think we had to call it out as a separate visit. If during our tour we want to visit Olympic Park, I think that makes a lot of sense versus saying let's do an annual tour and also a tour independently to Olympus Park.
Okay, so I think we can just take that out. And the next thing I have is just the Trails Master Plan, down to the Parks Master Plan. It says help prioritize trails, and I was thinking it could be help prioritize proposed trails, because that is more what I think, if we're looking at the master plan, we would be wanting to help offer feedback for what might be more important. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
Sorry, was that on 1.2.A?
Yes, 1.2A. Just the multi-use trail sharing, I think we're saying in regards, and this is just a little thing, if we can go to in regard, and that's also down on the outcome for tennis court and pickleball use. That's probably me, but I just wanted proper grammar. There's two in regards there. And then I just, that's my input. So if anyone has any other changes or omissions for the work plan, please let us know, and then we can move forward.
I just may I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Thanks. On number 7, which is the tennis court, pickleball court use, would part of the commissioner's outcome be perhaps to make a recommendation of adding courts as well, or is this sort of just limited to the existing facilities that we have right now?
Well, I think the scope of this request is to work with the existing scheduling feedback that we've had from players, but I think it's definitely going to be a recommendation to look for more courts. But as far as that being part of the work plan, I don't know if at this time we can really go out looking for, I mean, we can recommend like basketball courts adding nets, but as far as building courts, I think that's kind of outside this. Manager Carlin, did you want to input on that?
Sure, Warren, I could speak to that. Right now, we do not have any funding for additional pickleball courts or additional tennis courts. In addition, we don't have a site or a location for additional courts. And you know, right now the master plan of the ECP does not show pickleball courts in that park, which you know might be perceived as to some as the one spot that we may have room. But right now there's no plans to build additional pickleball or tennis courts. What we're looking for is just a way to have individuals cohabitate on the courts that we already have for pickleball and for tennis.
Okay.
Or coexist, I should say.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Thank you very much, yes.
Okay. And then also as far as the personnel on the ad hocs, please chime in. I think we have it as we've last discussed as far as who's on what ad hoc, but there's some openings like compost, if Chair Lappin needs a friend or two. But I think we've done a pretty good job of spreading out for the most part. But also the outcome. So does anyone have any input on the any of these work plan item outcomes before we move to approve?
I would just add that I think these outcomes are an improvement from our previous outcomes, and that we're going in the right direction, trying to be more specific with here's exactly what we're trying to achieve in the next year and more realistic.
Great, good. That was definitely the goal and a result of that report that you and Commissioner Brady did. Okay, so yes, Commissioner
Chair Warren, Are we just reviewing the outcomes at this point, or would there be any discussion on the who's going to be participating on the ad hoc committees?
Well, yeah, that's what I think we can. That doesn't have to be voted on, I don't believe. Is that correct? But I wanted to get the work plan approved.
Okay.
First, do we have a motion to approve the 2021-22 work plan?
Motion to approve.
I can second.
Okay.
Was that motion from Commissioner O'Halloran and second from Commissioner Hanson?
Correct.
Yes.
Very good. Chair Warren,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lappin,
Yes.
Commissioner Elliott,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Halloran,
Yes.
Commissioner Ritter,
Yes.
Commissioner Winters.
Yes.
Motion passes, finalizing the fiscal year 2020-21 Commission work plan.
Okay, great. Yeah, now I'd like to go through these items. Some of them we will be reporting on, some we won't, some are brand new. But I want to give everyone an opportunity to speak if anyone wants to. Starting with Parks and Recreation staff conduct annual tours. Anything to report? Anything we want to talk about regarding that?
No, not really. I think our thinking had been once everything officially opens up in mid-June, allow the summer travelers to come and then go, and then hopefully early fall, be able to work with staff to figure out the best locations and ideally just avoid some of the summer craziness that we tend to see here.
Okay, thank you. City-sponsored events. I thought Manager Carlin, did you want to talk about what's coming up a little bit or now as far as the calendar, that we actually have some in late summer?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So right now, our first event that we will be that is sponsored by the city that we will be doing is we are planning on a partnership with Dog Days of Summer in August. And then we are looking at also doing our October movie in the park. So those would be the first ones that are really taking shape with as far as city events. I do know that EE Day is also planning on EcoFest here in the city as well. And we will have a booth at that event, but those are the next 3 big events that will be coming up.
Do you have the dates for those?
I believe Dog Days of Summer is the 28th. And I'm just looking at my calendar quickly here.
It's August 8th, I think.
I'm sorry, August 8th, yep. August 8th. And then our EcoFest is at the end of September. And then our movie at Cottonwood Park will be on the 16th of October.
Cool, thanks, Manager Carlin. Next, identify guest speakers for monthly meetings. It's a great way to bring in some experts, in particular, related to the work plan items. So that's something to think about for our next series of meetings. PEP, I have nothing to report on PEP. I don't know, Commissioner Hanson, if you do.
Do not.
Do not. Okay, on to Parks Master Plan. Trails Master Plan. I don't have anything to report. Actually, I'm not technically on this anymore. So I don't know if Commissioner Ritter or Vice Chair, if you want to talk about your plans for this work item.
I did not realize you had dropped off of it, so I do not have an update, but I will next meeting.
Okay. And next, sand volleyball courts. Okay, so we did submit the letter to the mayor and city council requesting funding for environmental, noise, and traffic studies. We had a great amount of support from the sand volleyball community. We definitely know that the mayor and city council was made aware of how important this is to the residents and the volleyball players. And we're kind of starting to think about what do we do now, and how do we get this in the budget if it's not going to happen right away. That's kind of the last conversations we've had. I'm checking, see if I have anything else on that. Commissioner Elliott or Halloran, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm wondering, I understand the difficulty with the budget constraints this year and all that. I'm wondering if there's any way we can have a statement of support for the project from the city council. And I know that they have certain mechanisms for placing items and projects at least on an agenda. So I just want to help in any way I can to follow up and see that we get the best recognition for the efforts as we can get out of this, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to get it on in the queue.
Yeah.
The city project.
Yeah.
So Chair Warren, I can speak to this. This is Manager Carlin. I do know that they're in the midst of, those discussions that have to do with the next 2 years budget and then also the CIP projects. I can see if I can find out some more information to share with the commissioners, but that's the last I've heard is that they did receive the letter. That's something that they are considering, and that's what I know so far.
Okay, thank you. And one other thing, I was talking to Councilmember Joe Mosca, and he mentioned that there might be some funding that came possibly from grants that is allocated only for Parks and Rec projects. And he had asked Director Campbell to look into that. So I don't know if you know anything about that, or if I can request that you come back and let us know if there is any money for projects like that where it must be spent on Parks and Rec, because I hadn't heard of that until I spoke with them.
Annette, can you speak to that special grant funding?
I'm guessing that he's referencing the per capita grant, Prop 68, that every city gets, and it has to go to a capital project. I think Encinitas is about 177,000, so it's not a ton of money, and it does have some requirements for involving, disadvantaged communities and youth and some other different requirements, but that's probably what he's referencing.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else about sand volleyball? Okay, Aquatic Center. Commissioner Elliott, Vice Chair Lappin, anything? We kind of have a new outcome here, more focused, looks like.
I'm happy to give a quick update. So I'm going to be picking up the historical documents of just kind of what the conversation on the Aquatic Center has been to date from Manager Carlin tomorrow. And then Director Campbell, I think, spoke to Marla and myself today just about trying to manage expectations of what this ad hoc committee could realistically achieve this year. And I think my personal goal is this is a really, really big project, and it's remained on the work plan for a number of years. And I think it's just worth validating that if in a forced rank of what's realistic against the realistic budget we've got, is this still a top priority for the community? And if not, perhaps we table it for a couple of years and revisit further down the road. So I think just really trying to figure out, does the need still exist for this to be an active part of the work plan? I think that's probably my biggest goal for this year. And then if so, begin figuring out, how do you fund a project as massive as this one, not only from a building, but a maintenance perspective as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's smart to review it before and just to see, because I know it was in the master plan, but the master plan is kind of a little bit older now. So I think that's a good project for this year. Anything else on aquatic centers or on the aquatic center?
No, I agree totally. I'm grateful to Commissioner Lappin for taking the lead and looking over the documentation as we go forward with that. As long as it's such a high-ranking objective on the master plan, I think we would not be doing our duty to the Encinitas community to ignore it. So even though it's massive and we don't know quite how to embrace it, it's good that we're revisiting it, and then at least we'll touch base and see if it's still. It's important at some point to point out if it's still as high a priority as it has been in the past. So those are very, very doable objectives for the year, and I think that's what we need.
Okay, great, thank you. Multi-use trail sharing. I can talk a little bit about what happened yesterday. We had a Zoom meeting with the chair of the Traffic and Public Safety Commission, a assistant deputy from the North Coastal Sheriff Station, and some people from the City of Encinitas Engineering Department. And it was great that we all got together and started talking about what kind of policy can be created for the city as a whole. So they're talking about the roads mainly, of course, with the traffic, but I think because we play such a large role in the education, it was helpful that we were there. And there is a possibility that we might recommend a change to the municipal code for the coastal rail trail. So it was our first meeting of all of us getting together. And what the outcome of that was, they're going to talk to the city attorney and possibly recommend a change to the municipal code. So that doesn't cover trails, which is what we're going to be discussing mostly in our own ad hoc. And I think we're going to do some public outreach this year, and it's going to be about access and possibly where bikes can ride, where horses can ride. So we'll definitely be getting the residents' feedback on that. Anyone else want to chime in on multi-use trail sharing?
Just the e-bikes, I believe I read that they are currently banned as they're considered motorized vehicles. Is that correct?
On a trail?
On trails, yeah. There's motorized vehicles are banned, and e-bikes are considered motorized, correct?
They're class 1 and class 2 e-bikes are considered bikes by the state of California. So they are not, and that is a lot of confusion. And that's one of the reasons we're talking about changing signage, because the no motorized vehicles, it's completely, contradictory. It can be difficult to understand.
Yeah, our speaker earlier had that same impression.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
The only thing I would add is it was actually a really interesting meeting, and it sounds like traffic and public safety are coming at it at this whole issue the same way that our ad hoc did last year, which is there's kind of 3 tiers. There's education, there's policy, and then there's enforcement. And what traffic had said is, as far as they were concerned, teenagers were 90 to 95% of the issues that were being reported around e-bikes. A lot of it just around large groups congregating and the behavior that they were seeing. And it sounds like the recommendation they were making to the deputy was to begin enforcing ticket policies and beginning to ticket where they can against existing bike laws e-bike riders in hopes that that would begin sending a message that this was something that the city was going to be taking seriously. What it sounded like the deputy's main concern as it related to trails was around speed. And that's not unique to e-bikes, which is one of the things we kind of came to realize last year. But his biggest concern is that while there have not been any issues within the parks that he knows of to date, as you begin having more bikes moving faster on trails and sidewalks, moving through places like Encinitas Community Park or Olympus Park, the opportunity for an issue and a more serious issue at velocity increases. So I think their bigger concern as it related to parks was more around speed versus access, but it was a really good conversation to hear how they were all approaching this as well.
Yeah, and we talked briefly about e-bikes in the parks, which is a bit of a concern. I think at Olympus Park, it's going to die down a little bit. But they do go to ECP and hang out, which is totally fine. It's not, they're not all bad, but that's the consideration when we're talking about the education. And also they did approve a bike sharing program last week, and that ECP is going to have, I believe, a station, and other parks are too. So that's something we'll keep an eye on.
Chair Warren, I had a question regarding the municipal change that might be occurring for the CRT. Was that for e-bikes only, or was it for other motorized vehicles as well as electric scooters and one wheels and et cetera?
Well, I think it's not gonna be proposed yet. I think they're gonna go talk to their lawyer and see what they can actually propose. But that would come more from us, from our ad hoc. But I think it would be, if we decided to recommend it, a speed limit that would apply to every type of vehicle. I think that right now there's signs that post 8 miles an hour, but there's no ordinance, so that no one can really enforce that.
The challenge too with the various e-bikes too is that it's difficult to tell whether it's a class 1, 2, or 3 by just visually seeing them, unless it's just going super fast and you're like, oh, that must be a class 3. So sometimes from an enforcement standpoint, I can see that being an issue.
Yeah, it was, and it was really interesting to hear the deputy speak about that, because it, just like you would suspect, it is hard to tell. And if they said there's kids throwing rocks at cars, but then they go to the pack of e-bikes and they can't even identify who it was. And I think Vice Chair Lappin, did you bring up like they can't have identification because they're kids, so you can't even say, show me your license. So they're very evasive, I guess. So that's tricky. But that was something that came up, the idea of registering the bikes within the city and online tracking of them to help identify some of the bad seeds. But again, this is more on the roads and not so much, I don't think that there hasn't been many issues on the trails.
There was one other thing I thought that was interesting, which is that the local sheriff's department is just now getting the ability to designate bike incidents as e-bike incidents. So up to this point, if there was an incident with a bike and it was tracked in their internal system, there was no way to call out that it was an e-bike. And so that functionality is just now rolling out to them, but it sounds like it'll take a couple of years worth of collecting that data to really have anything meaningful against it. But he was saying that's also part of the challenge they face internally, is that you can't always tell what bike incidents have involved an e-bike and what have just been traditional bikes. So I think there's a lot changing in this area, in this arena, I suppose, right now at many different levels within our community and more broadly. But it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts. So trying to just stay in contact with these other groups I think will be really helpful for us.
Okay, great, thanks. Anything else on the multi-use trail sharing? Commissioner Elliott?
Yeah, just a quick one. Thanks. This is such an important topic for the community. Thanks all three of you for the work you're doing on it. I was just curious, since it indicates that part of this is performing community outreach, is there any funding for assessing opinion, or how do you approach the community outreach?
I can speak to that. This is Manager Carlin. Currently, we are using some of the funding that was left over for the Cyclovia event because we went virtual this year. We work with the Encinitas Bike Coalition to create a bike safety video, primarily for e-bike usage. So we already have that underway, and I'm actually meeting with with the Bike Coalition tomorrow to talk about the different elements that will be in that bike video. So we're working with them on that. And then in addition, just so you know, the next week at the Youth Commission meeting, the San Diego Bike Coalition will also be doing they will be bringing a speaker to the Youth Commission meeting to talk about e-bike safety as it pertains to youth. And then that will also, that will be provided on our website and could be shared for individuals in the community that would like to see that.
Great, thanks. Manager Carlin, if I noticed that the San Diego Bike Coalition, they have a class, one more in May and one in June on their website, and what the Oceanside one is a live class, but I don't see anything ahead, after that.
Sure. So I'm also working with them. We're going to be talking a little bit more about how we can partner on those different bike trainings, and potentially if we could bring them to Encinitas and offer them at the Community and Senior Center. So I've been working with Sylvie quite a bit on that.
Okay, and I think this is a great thing that I heard. I've not confirmed, but my son goes to Degano Middle School, and they are, if you ride your bike to school, you have to take a class. So I think that's a great idea, and I need to look into it and see, well, is every school doing that? But I think that's a really great way to help guarantee or try to get more of these kids to take classes on the education side of things. Okay, anything else on trail sharing? Okay. We have tennis court and pickleball use. Anyone want to report on that?
There's a lot of interest in it.
Okay. I'd like to say something. I was surprised by what Mark Siegel said about there not being any issues. Because if you go through the emails, there's plenty of issues.
Yeah, we did receive, I think, upwards of 30 emails based on posting signs at tennis courts, tennis pickleball courts, and asking the community to let us know how they feel the current situation is working out. And yeah, to Commissioner Hansen's point, some of those emails identified conflict and issues.
Yeah, and I can't speak to Mark's why, he had his reasons for saying what he said, but I do know that when I spoke to people down at the courts, a lot of them did say that there are no issues, and they said, this is a joy, it's a beautiful day, I can't believe this, we are so lucky to play here. They were, they love it. The people out there are really grateful. And it could be that some are concerned that they just don't want anything to change. And maybe there are minor issues, but they can put up with it because it's such a great setup. Yes, Vice Chair Lappin.
I'm just thinking, listening, is there a way that we can respond back to the people who were complaining to get a sense what date and or times that those issues are arising? Because I could very easily see there being specific times of day or days of the week when interest is greater. And I wonder if you could see some kind of trend unfold that would help indicate that on Saturday mornings or Tuesday mornings or whatever it may be, there are issues, and maybe it helps, you don't over engineer a solution, but maybe it helps guide where the friction is at the moment, that, I don't know, there could be some kind of custom solution.
Yeah, I think we would want to identify the problem times, and we've already identified that for the most part. I think it's mornings, right? Is it weekday mornings or it's all morning?
Marlon, from a staff perspective, when we're hearing about it is in the mornings, like right before the lunch hour, is where this all surfaced. That's where we're hearing most of the complaints from. And the complaints that we've heard in our office is from the tennis community, mostly. We haven't really heard from the pickleball community. When we started getting these complaints, it was during the time that I was acting director, and I did go out there a couple times and speak with a couple of the folks. And then in addition to that, I also tried to do some outreach to the pickleball community, the individuals that we had had previous correspondence with. Unfortunately, I was unable to reach the ones that were actively playing at the time. Most of the ones that I reached out to said, we're taking a break because of COVID. So I was unsuccessful in that. But that is what we are hearing is like, you know, between the 10 a.m. and noon hour of the day is when most of the issues are occurring.
Yeah, mid to late mornings.
Correct.
And yeah, in the emails, and again, I don't think we identified the percentage of negative responses, but it was the tennis community is definitely much more impacted from their perspective, with you know, the pickleball lines being painted on to the tennis courts, and those being distracting, along with some potential for slipping or the balls bouncing off those lines and courts playing differently, and then really a disruption to the I don't know if serenity is the right word, but the game of tennis is 2 to 4 people at most, very focused, and I think one of the comments in an email was they were waiting for a keg party to break out on the other court with the 16, 18 pickleball players having a great time and very loud, or sometimes loud. And yeah, so they're definitely seeing challenges between, and again, not all the time or not consistently, but between sharing the courts, a full pickleball court on one side and a tennis court on the other at Cottonwood, and then sometimes having a hard time managing because we have an hour timing already posted on all the courts, sometimes trying to manage that hour and people being respectful to others and getting off the courts after an hour.
Yeah, and I think the pickleball community, tennis is social as well, but when they all play together, I think that's a very fun experience. So it's nice, for example, that Olympus Park has a sports court where you can play pickleball, but it's not, and that might be fine for many people, and that's definitely a help. But I think there's some pickleball players that just like the scene of the multiple courts over at Cottonwood.
Yeah. So I mean, I think there's definitely some opportunities for recommendations, and yeah, we're going to proceed, I believe, with trying to put together a Zoom meeting specifically to have community outreach and conversations with the tennis and pickleball communities, and then plan to come back and put together recommendations or options that can be presented back to the Parks and Rec department.
Cool, sounds good. Yeah, we're going to involve pickleball and tennis players in that Zoom. Anything else on tennis and pickleball? Okay, compost.
I apologize for the background noise. There's a 6-year-old wailing. So this is something that is new to the master plan. I moved down here to Cardiff 3 years ago from San Francisco, where composting is it was, as long as I was there for 7 years, it was just a part of your trash service. So I'm very excited that Encinitas is going to be introducing composting to their residential services starting June 1st. And, you know, all the parks and playgrounds up in San Francisco had a landfill, a recycling, and a compost bin, as did most retail stores and even offices. And I'd really like to get a sense for, is there an interest and an appetite for introducing composting at some of our parks and playgrounds? So my goal with this item is really just to build a framework for how this could work, and ideally just find a park within our system that staff and EDCO believe could be a good kind of pilot program for us, figure out how it would work, what kind of information you need to have available, what kind of container is available for them to offer on site, if any are available yet. And then just kind of how the budget and logistics of introducing this at the park level would work. But, you know, if possible, to divert this waste and help to kind of turn it back into a life source for our soil and our community, I would love to be able to do that and introduce that at our park. So I'm going to see what we can get done, but that's the goal.
Great, thank you for bringing that to the work plan. And I will, after we go over our last item, I'll review just in case we want to add people to those items. Our next item is fitness trail and court feasibility. We have Commissioner Ritter. You want to talk to that a little bit?
Thank you for your consideration on adding this to the work plan. It's a little passion project of mine, being a past fitness instructor, and I think it would be something that our athletic community here in Encinitas would very much appreciate. So I was going to get started on it once we got the work plan approved. So I don't have anything specific to speak to it at this point, but I see that Commissioner Winters seems to be interested to join that with me. So thank you for your assistance on that.
Oh yeah, we had coffee and he was, I want to be in on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm happy to help and assist, and we should now hopefully start organizing and follow your vision for that. So thanks for allowing me to participate in that committee with you.
This is Manager Keller. I also met with Commissioner Ritter up at the Community and Senior Center and showed him the fitness equipment that was just installed due to a grant that we received for senior fitness. We installed 4 pieces up there of equipment that would be similar to something that you could do alongside the trail. And then the Senior Commission has also written an AARP grant to add another piece of equipment and then put shade structures over that equipment. So we're just waiting to hear the outcome of that.
They actually had an article, yes, I'm an AARP reader, but in the magazine, they actually had a 2-page article on how AARP is funding a lot of these fitness courts.
That's good. There could be money for that.
Always good when there's money.
Yeah. Okay, so as far as the personnel on these ad hocs, we have some opportunity, there's some openings. If we don't have to make any changes, if we don't want to, I wanted to ask Vice Chair Lappin, who's turned off her video, but that's okay. Are you looking for people? Is this just something you wanted to do on your own? Oh, she's back. Okay. Oh, you're muted. No, it's okay.
Oh, sorry. We had an injury. I'm so sorry.
No, I was just asking about your ad hoc, and I'm just because there's two spots. If this is something you thought you could be more productive just going on with the way your schedule works, or if you're looking for help, or since I
am happy to go it alone, or I will happily accept any kind of brain share if anyone's interested in kind of working on this with me. Either way, really.
Okay.
I would be interested in helping you if you'd like. My husband and I, we actually do vermicomposting. So we have 2 worm bins and we've been doing it for probably 7 or 8 years. So I'm very familiar with the process.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other changes? Are we all happy where we are? Okay. Sounds good. All right. Good work plan. We've got 9A. Just to review it here before I go to that, we have the on June 1st, we'll be presenting the commission work plan to City Council, or the outcomes, and as well as this new work plan that we just approved on June 1st. Now we have a park operations report.
Chair Warren, yeah, that's actually, that meeting is June 9th would be the council meeting.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Just reading the work plan. June 9th. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Well, big news. Olympus Park opened May 1st. We opened Olympus Park. A lot of you were there, and some of our old commissioners were there. It was nice to see everyone. We had a ribbon cutting and we had a tree planting with City Council, which was really nice. A lot of people are enjoying the park, which is a good thing. And we are working on more permanent signage to help with some of the rules and some of the parking issues. And we have also hired a security guard. You might have seen some security out there to help manage some of the teens and some other people that are, you know, not following the rules and kind of misusing the park. So, you know, we're hoping that, we know it's really new and exciting and that eventually it will calm down and kind of normalize. But we are doing our best to try to mitigate. So we hope you all love the park as much as we do. It's really amazing, I have to say. Let's see what else. We had some vandalized lights at Grandview, unfortunately, that we have to replace the beach access. We're working on scheduling resurfacing of the basketball courts at Cardiff Sports Court and Oakcrest Park. That should be complete in June. We're also replacing light cages at D Street Beach access. The sign at Beacons Beach, we're replacing that. It will be identical. It will match the same sign, but it definitely needs to be replaced. We're working on that. We've also done some tree trimming along some trails in Alevenheim. And we have a lot of memorial bench interest in some of our parks, as well as Olympus Park. So a lot going on, and summer's gonna be here soon, so we're ready for that.
Great.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Manager.
Yeah, Commissioner Winters.
Hi, Manager, am I allowed to just ask Manager Saul a question about topic not that she just spoke about, though?
I believe so.
Okay. I just had a question for you to perhaps you could educate us a little bit. I read the city recently adopted the Homeless Action Plan, and it seems like certain parts of that plan do intersect with our some of the issues identified in that plan intersect with the Parks and Rec Commission, and or at least the parks right now. And I was just curious, do you envision in the future an involvement in any way of this commission with anything related to the Homeless Action Plan, or do you think they're kind of very separate items and issues that will be handled kind of separately? I was just kind of wondering if you had any insight into that.
Yeah, so that's really another department, development services, and they're actually hiring a new employee to kind of help manage that. In parks, you know, we don't do the enforcement really. What we do is we kind of notify what we're seeing. You know, we do work with the sheriff as well to help them locate, certain encampments and other problems that we're dealing with. So that's really how we work with development services and with the HOPE team. The HOPE team goes out, and talks to certain individuals. They have social workers and they have a whole program. But that's not really what Parks does.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Manager Saul, one quick question. You had mentioned resurfacing basketball courts. Are there any plans to resurface the tennis court at Moonlight Beach? Because a number of those emails mentioned that regarding tennis and pickleball.
Yeah, so Moonlight Beach was actually resurfaced about 4 years ago. I did that right when I started with the city. The problems with that court is more structural. So the actual concrete slab itself has cracks in it, and those cracks don't go away when you resurface. So that's really more the issue over at that court.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, recreation services. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Ritter, did you have a question? You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
You guys can't read my lips yet. So I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed seeing Olympus Park. There's all kinds of amazing things there, and it's amazing how much is compacted in such a small area with regards to amenities. I was curious, there were some steps that kind of went down from the pumping track that were, they kind of looked like stones, but people were using them to kind of shortcut down through the pumping track. Is there any plan to put a railing there with regards to just making it safe to do that? That would be my first question. And then second, I noticed that a lot of people, because, I guess we're animals, we look for the shortcut, and people don't like to kind of meander through that long pumping track. Is there any thought on making kind of a shortcut trail that's a little bit more permanent so that they're not walking on landscaping as they go down to the lower levels or go back up to the upper levels?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So first off, the rock kind of stepping terrace area, it was designed to be a cut through. So it really is designed for like kids or teens that can just kind of go up that section. It's not really meant to be used as a stairway, or we wouldn't want to install a handrail, but that's not really what it's for. We are looking into maybe putting a sign that says that, so people realize, use at your own risk type thing. Kind of similar to what you'll see at some other like state parks, different trail areas. They have similar things like that. And then we are looking at potentially putting in fencing along the pathway that goes down, because there are areas where people are cutting through with bikes and their skateboards and walking through planters. So we are looking at that too, and I think that will help.
Thank you.
Yes, okay, recreation services.
Thank you, Chair Warren. So we are currently working on a plan to reopen the Community and Senior Center. And as you know, we've been closed for well over a year with that facility. We have held camps there and such, but for the most part, we've been closed to the public. With that, we've had a lot of our part-time staff have moved on to other opportunities. And then we also have some staff that aren't interested in coming back at this time. So we are doing a major recruitment right now for part-time staff to help facilitate that building and make sure that we have enough staff to cover all the shifts that are there. So if you know of anybody who's looking for part-time work, we are accepting applications on our website. We're also accepting applications right now for a program assistant who will primarily oversee rentals at the facility. Last year, we consolidated our rentals application for the community and senior center and the library rooms that we're responsible for. And so we've made it a little bit more streamlined. We are working to get that information up on the website, and we are accepting rental applications. However, we're not processing them yet because we haven't really received much guidance yet from the county or the state on what we're able to allow for indoor rentals. But we are taking them and time stamping them if they do come in so that we're ready to process them when we're given the go ahead. We're working toward our summer programs. We have a lot of programs that are running. You know, with COVID, hopefully finishing up soon, we can get back to some normalcy. We actually have the most junior lifeguard participants that we've had since I've started with the city nearly 4 years ago. We've almost got 1,500 kids registered for that program. We just had our first round of swim tests this past weekend, and we put about 450 kids through swim tests. And then we have a swim test coming up on June 5th, and then we're looking for additional swim testing times at some area pools. So we're very excited that we're being able to bring that program back along with Beach Kids, our beach volleyball program, and then build our surf program back up. So those are really our big camps for the summer as far as beach camps. And then we also have a lot of athletic camps that are happening outside. Seaside Day Camp, we're going to be holding at the Community and Senior Center to spread kids out into the various rooms to make sure that we're still in compliance with the camp guidelines. And we will be sticking to those camp guidelines unless they are lifted with the June 15th opening of the state. In addition, we have our fall field allocations meeting this Thursday, where we'll be meeting with all the youth sports organizations in town and talking to them about their field needs for the fall. We talk about different things like COVID restrictions that are still in place. We'll talk through the different various schedules and what their needs are for their fall programs. And so that's this Thursday. And then we have actually drafted a new field allocation policy, and Parker, who you met tonight, he's going to be our person that is going to be in charge of field allocations. So Parker and I are actually going to start meeting with our youth sports organizations on an individual basis to start talking about some of the changes in the new youth sports allocation policy and getting their feedback to bring back to our director. That way we can talk about the different things that will affect their groups and how they'll affect them, whether it be positive or negative, to make some informed decisions on what we need to tweak in that policy. So we're going to be working on that over the next few months as well. And that's what we have going on in recreation.
Great, thank you, Manager Carlin. I just want to declare or make sure you know my daughter passed the test. She took the swim test.
Yay!
Yeah, that was fun. Okay, commission member initiated agenda items. Do we have any of those? Do we have any future agenda items? Okay, commissioner reports. Let's go, Commissioner O'Halloran.
Nothing new to report outside of all the progress that we made with sand volleyball. I want to say definitely a special thanks to you, Chair Warren, for all the work you put into getting that letter over to the City Council. And then, yeah, lots of activity with pickleball, and look forward to holding that Zoom with our communities and putting together recommendations to try and help the department optimize the use of our scarce facilities for tennis and pickleball.
Great, thanks. Commissioner Ritter.
Well, I was recently appointed by the City Council to the Equity Committee. And what we are working towards is to create more diversity and inclusion and accessibility to the city as residents and as visitors to our city, as well as employees to our city. So I'm really excited to be working on that committee as well, and perhaps some of the things that I learned there I might be able to share with you as well as park staff to make our department more approachable, more inclusive, more diverse. And then on an operational standpoint, our meetings start at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays. So I try to pop in as soon as I can and leave just a little bit early on that previous meeting. So if I look a little weary on my Zoom call towards the end, I'm kind of going after a second one. So.
Okay, that's great. Congratulations on your appointment. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. It's an amazing group of people. I think I will have so much to learn from them as well. So it's nice to that the city is investing in this.
Thanks. Commissioner Hanson.
Yeah, I'd say through the fact-finding on the tennis and pickleball issue, and Commissioner O'Halloran referred to it by saying how scarce our courts are, that we really need to start seeking additional locations for courts. And I don't know how we get that done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Winters.
Sure, thank you. Not to repeat what everyone has said earlier, but I also really enjoyed that conversation we had yesterday with the deputy from Encinitas, traffic and safety. And I just thought it was really interesting how really the thing that I took away the most was that the incidents as it relates to e-bikes seem to be more happening within the parks as opposed to on the trails. So I just think that was somewhat interesting, and that may help shape our discussion or our recommendations later. And I also saw Olympus Park as well, which was awesome. And just that's, I think Commissioner Hanson just made a very good point as well, which I would support him in that, in those kinds of ideas. So thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Elliott.
I just want to echo Commissioner O'Halloran's thanks to you, our chair, for all the hard work on sand volleyball, and to Commissioner O'Halloran as well. I feel like it has come a long way, and that there's an opportunity to build on the achievements and get some traction moving forward a little bit, at least getting it on the docket. So thanks for all your hard work on that. And I look forward to seeing everybody in real life at some point soon.
Yeah, maybe next meeting. Thank you. Vice Chair Lappin.
Okay, I've got a couple things I'm going to say. First, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there on May 1st, but Manager Saul, congratulations on Olympus Park. That's what a milestone. So that's really exciting, and I'm so glad it's open. I have a lot of friends who have told me a lot of good things, and I can't wait to check it out. Manager Carlin, congratulations on reopening the facilities. I know that's a long-awaited milestone, and I'm very excited for everyone to get back to air quote normal. Marla, I hope that your ankle is healing really nicely and you're feeling better. Commissioner Ritter, I saw the write-up about your equity commission seat. Congratulations, that's super exciting. Chair Warren, congrats to your daughter. I don't want to leave her out. That's a big milestone. I'm on camera. I have some people coming in who are about to take a bath, so I hope they stay off camera. Then what I wanted to just share really quickly is I sat on the community grant panel, and we met last week, and it was so cool. And I thank you all so much for the opportunity to represent Parks and Rec on it. There were a record 56 applications applying for in either civics or arts grants up to $5,000. And the city had about $150,000 of grant money that they were able to distribute to these organizations. And I was just blown away by how many worthy causes there are within our community and how many passionate people there are to take the time to fill out the application, to apply for things that truly mean so much to them, from playwriting in schools to soccer for underprivileged kids to being able to afford an EKG machine at Health and Human Services. And I so appreciated being able to have the opportunity to be involved in that. And I can't wait for somebody else to have the turn next year because it was really fantastic. So thank you all again. And that is the end of my recap.
That's great. That wins. Yeah, nice recap. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you took that on, those grants, because I think was it Jim originally? I think he said he wanted someone who's done it before, and Marla almost did it. So it sounds like it was a great fit for you. I don't have a whole lot. I think things are opening up, which I always say. I'm excited for that movie park, even though that's going to be in October. I love those events, and they're bringing the kids out is always great. If you remember Christine Schindler from last meeting, I'm meeting with her in a couple weeks because she had a lot of great things, a lot of good ideas, in particular, safe rides to school. So I might pointing her towards some of the ad hocs because they relate to the work plan. Let's see, what else do I have? I already said my girl, if she passed the swim test, we covered that. And just with the volleyball, thank you to Commissioner Elliott and O'Halloran too, because I think we really worked well, and will continue to work well putting all that together. And it sounded like I did a whole bunch, but we all worked together, and the public outreach, and I think we've been very successful, and we have it on the radar, and we got the word out. So thanks to you guys. Did I see Commissioner Ritter? Did you raise your hand? Or Mr. Muted person?
I was just curious if you had heard when the commissioner shirts were going to become available.
Oh, I have not, but maybe someone from staff can answer to that. I didn't wear mine.
They are on order, and we'll certainly notify you when they're here.
Okay, did you hear that?
Yeah, they're on order, but not in yet.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone. I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 7:05 p.m.
Fantastic.
Woohoo, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thanks.